choosing credible sources means paying attention to who wrote the information, why and how they wrote it. Government websites with a .gov in the URL seem to be the most reliable and credible sources. The domains .gov and .education can only be registered by government and educational institutions. For this reason, these websites reflect a higher order of authority. Most of the websites we used were from these domains.
Australian pests. Foreign introduced animal species. While some pests found in Australia were here before the white settlers, at least some of them were introduced to Australia with what were good intentions. Cane toads, feral cats, Brumbies, feral pigs and rabbits are just to name a few. These introduced animals are placing extreme pressure on Australia's precious wildlife and wilderness. Some of the impacts are predation, competition for food and shelter, destroying of habitat, and the spread of diseases. In 1935, 101 cane toads were introduced into northern Queensland from South America in an ill-advised effort to control beetles which were damaging sugar crops. As a biological way of controlling the beetles, cane toads were a complete failure. The toads bypassed the beetles for the delicious array of native insects and animals the Australian wilderness had to offer. Cane toads are prolific breeders. In ideal conditions, females can lay up to 30,000 eggs twice a year. With no natural predators and diseases, the toad population continues to dramatically escalate throughout northern Australia. The cane toad invasion now covers approximately 500,000 square kilometres of Australia. They are rapidly adapting to harsher conditions and are advancing 40 to 60 kilometres a year. As the toads move into new areas, researchers are finding reductions in many native species numbers as they compete for food and shelter. There is also a decline in some native predator species as they mistaken the toxic toad as a food source. Currently, there are no broad-scale methods of controlling this pest in place. Researchers have begun to concentrate on managing the impacts of cane toads rather than attempting to eradicate the species.
Wild horses, or as they are called here in Australia, Brumbies, originated in England and were brought over with the first fleet in 1788. Working horses were then shipped over also from England and were used for working on the farms and within the towns until the introduction of the combustion engine. With no further use for the horses, they either escaped or were released into the outback. Brumbies are found all over Australia, but as you can see, large herds of them are found at the top end of Queensland and also in parts at the top end of the Northern Territory. They can inhabit from the deserts all the way through to the wetlands and are found as far as small islands offshore. Brumbies are a pest due to the damage to fences, erosion of streams and land. They foul wetlands and spread weeds. The threat to motorists are due to horses running in front of cars. There are a wide variety of solutions with the control of the Brumbies. The current solution is aerial culling program. It is one of the humane ways of controlling the Brumbies. Mustering of herds sometimes is also used, and some of the younger horses are used for pets and saddle horses. Fertility control, which is also a humane way, is the least effective of the controls. A natural control is drought, which has helped to control a number of the Brumbies within areas of Australia. Unfortunately, at the moment, they are the Brumbies, that is, out of control with their reproduction.
Rabbits. Rabbits were first introduced to Australia by the First Fleet in 1788. The species became widespread after an infested outbreak caused a release in 1859. Rabbits were bred as food animals, used to be a popular food for common people, and even today you can still eat rabbit. Why are they pests? Rabbits are mammalian pests and invasive species in Australia causing damage to crops. They also destroy large vegetation and extinction of flora species. The common rabbit is becoming so numerous throughout the colony that they are running about some large estates by thousands. We understand that there are no rabbits whatever in the elder colony. The quote emphasises that in 1827, Tasmania had increasing numbers of rabbits. Scrubby, sandy soil between Sydney and Botany Bay would be ideal for farming rabbits. At the same time as rabbits were increasing in Tasmania, in New South Wales, rabbits had already made homes like rabbit farming warrens rather than cages. These warrens were sandy, had enough shelter, and were safe. Rabbits are bred around houses, but we have yet no wild ones in enclosures. This also explains that the rabbit environment and that rabbits were a localised population. Current solutions to stop the spread of the species. Well, in 1907, Western Australia introduced a rabbit-proof fence to contain the rabbits and stop the spread of the species. Although the attempt was unsuccessful, shooting rabbits is one of the most common control methods and can stop the growth of rabbits. Poisoning is the most widely used control solution that requires less effort. Poisoning includes burying poison baits to kill rabbits with an old cart. In 1952, the McColm virus was introduced on a trial to control wild rabbits, and it has had the most impact on severely reducing the rabbit population. In 1996, the rabbit hemorrhagic disease, RHD, was established to stop the infestation and control of rabbits. The RHD was a more effective resolution to control the infestation of rabbits, as rabbits became immune against a more harmful form of RHD. There is no cure for either RHD or maximatosis, as many affected pets are euthanized as there is a legal vaccine.
Feral cats. Cats have been in Australia since European settlement. They were brought over as pets. Some escaped and others were released around homesteads to keep down rabbit, mice and rat populations. In turn, these cats had to learn to fend for themselves, which meant they reverted back to their wild state, becoming known as feral cats. Feral cats can have up to 3 litters a year, so the population is rapidly growing, with 12 million predicted to live in Australia at this time. They can live in almost all parts of Australia. They are a threat to many birds, mammals, reptiles and amphibians, and have wiped out some species altogether. Feral cats on mainland Australia are hard to control as they avoid human contact, making them hard to find and remove. Do not take baits and are shy of traps. Even when they have been removed, they repopulate the area again very quickly. Research is being done into how is the best way to control these animals.
Feral pigs. Feral pigs descend from a lineage close to Berkshire and Tamworth pigs. They were introduced to Australia on the First Fleet from Britain. Settlers bound for the unknown needed a source of protein that was easily bred and could survive Australia's harsh outback. The domesticated pig was a brilliant selection, with amazing reproductive potential and an omnivore's diet that consists of almost anything. Bountiful in the beginning, these pigs later broke free and bred in the wild. The domesticated pigs, now feral, quickly became a problem for farmers in the late 1800s. Feral pigs currently inhabit 40% of Australia and number in the tens of millions. Most commonly found in drainage basins and swamp areas, this pest challenges native fauna and domesticated livestock for precious watering holes. Weighing in at over 100 kilograms, feral pigs are a fierce and gluttonous survivor. Feral pigs are commonly found decimating farmers' crops and native fauna's natural habitats. Short-term measures such as shooting, fencing and trapping have done little to quell the feral pigs' numbers. Farmers follow strict guidelines when baiting and poisoning them. While baiting yields terrific results, it also has risks of targeting native wildlife. There are at least 80 introduced animal species that have established wild populations on mainland Australia. The cane toad, Brumbie, rabbit, feral cat and feral pig are examples of such animals that have had significant impact on Australia's agriculture and environment, making them pests. No pest animal species has ever been eradicated from Australia, so it seems the problem is going to exist in the foreseeable future. Therefore, efforts should be focused on managing these pests effectively in places where they are causing significant damage. It is vital that no new pest species are introduced to Australia.